All right, we are going to now jump to doing your roof lines on your plan. Okay, to create the roof lines, we are going to look at the overhang of the roof, which is 450. There is also the overhang of the gables, which is 300, and there is some fascia boards, which are represented by 50 mils from your outer wall lines. Okay, so um, some of you would have a drawing that is this far, okay, and you've done all your cutouts, and some of you would be still with having your walls not exploded but just offset and finish just doing all your interior walls. um, Either or, it's perfectly fine. If you are in this version here where you've prepared the openings, all you have to do is actually link this all up as a polyline if you would like. It just makes it a little bit easier to have it all as a polyline to offset that to be able to create your roof line. If not, it's not a train smash. You can also just offset each line. It does just take a little bit longer. So it's for those students that have just done the outer walls and inner walls, then when doing a plan, this is the time to be able to offset the roof lines. Okay, so in your procedure document, you can turn to page 17 and follow suit with the instructions there, or you can also look at the drawing of the roof plan on page 18, where it gives you a indication of the fall and the gullies as well as the hips of the roof, so that you can see how the roof um, looks if you are in an aerial perspective looking down onto this house. Okay, so if I had to look at the drawing, you will actually see that there that it's offset all by 450. So I don't have two screens at the moment, so I'm just literally verbalizing this to you, but I'm hoping that at home you have printed out the document and being able to look what is presented to you and mimic that in AutoCAD. Okay, so basically you're going to create your layer. Well, you should have all created all the layers, and you should be able to do your roof plan layer over here. You need to pick the line or the color of that layer to be 8, and you also need to choose your line type being center to, which looks like a long dash, short dash. Okay, you need to make that current by clicking on it so it is actually blue, and then you can say okay. All right, and let me just go back there. So if you're trying to locate center 2, you can load and you can scroll down to where it is. I think I passed it. There we go. Center 2. All right, which is that one there. You can select it and press OK. All right, so I've already selected it, so I'm just going to say cancel. Okay, OK. So let's make that current by choosing that layer to be current. All right, and close your properties manager or layers properties, and then what we're going to do is grab this polyline which represents your outer wall, and we are going to offset that. Okay, so let's choose offset, and we are wanting the roof layer to be our current layer, so we need to choose that as our layer. So go down here and choose layer, and then it's asking you, do you want it to be current or from the source? We don't want the source. We don't want it to offset from the source. So we are going to say current, and we are now going to give it a offset distance of 450, because that is the eave overhang. All right, enter, and we are going to select that line and drag it outwards, and select by clicking in on the outside of that wall. Press enter. Now you see from here it looks like a solid line, but if I zoom in you can actually see the dot dash. So just to make things more visible, we are going to change the scale of that line, and in order for us to do that we are going to be changing the properties. Okay, so we look at the dashed lines and line type scale. So we can select that line, and you can actually, if you've got your properties here, you can actually see it brings it up here, and there's your line type scale, and we're going to change it to 50. All right, or if you don't have that up, then I'm just going to click out of there, escape. So if you don't have this up, I'm just closing this all. The shorthand version to type it in as a command here would be change properties. So that's capital C and H, and change properties comes up. All right, and we select that line, and the line type scale is over there because you're in the bilayer, which is the color. It's roof plan, which is the layer name. There's your line type, but now we need to go to the line type scale, and we're going to change that to 50. You can even try 100 and see what it looks like. It might be too big, but 50 seems to work, so let's use 50 and escape. And now you can actually see those lines, the roof line being a long dash, short dash, and that's quite clear. So we've actually just made that a larger by entering in that scale by 50. Okay, so now that you've done that, you can actually see that it's all 450 all the way around as an overhang, but in the front here we have part of our verge being 330, and we need to be able to allow for that. So we need to be drawing the hips and the valleys and the ridges, where we'll be looking at copy and mirror, but every line is drawn at 45 degrees. Then we use fillet and trim. Okay, so we are going to start off with looking at this line. So if I look at point 1 to 2 and mirrored on this side 1 to 2, okay, you will see on your drawing that it is offset from the on the outer wall to the outside of that edge of the roof line to be 300. So we need to manipulate this polyline by choosing stretch, and we are going to use a green selection box. Now remember, a green selection box, you always click just right of this corner, and that edge there or corner. So we're going to click here, we're going to drag over that line and click again. So in that sense, it is only selected this as a object. Okay, and it actually tells you, it says down here, select objects, specify opposite corner, 1 is found, and that is what we want. So we're going to say I agree with that, and when we agree with something we press enter. Now that we've pressed enter, it's asking us at what displacement do we want to now move that object to? What is its new location? So we need to be able to provide a base point so that it can move from that base point. And the best way to do that is to allocate a end point. All right, you could also do a midpoint if you've got your midpoint on, but it's not picking it up. It's definitely picking up the endpoints. So let's go back to either or. So we're going to go to our endpoint here. We're going to click on it, and we are going to not drag it in angled directions, because you can actually see we're stretching that out. That's wrong. What we're going to do is we're literally just going to move our cursor upwards in a 90-degree action. So once we've got that up there, it's now asking us for a displacement. So if the current Eve is sitting at 450, we need it to be now sitting at 300. So let's do some maths. 400 minus 300 is 150. So I need to move that line from the base point closer to that wall by 150. So let's type in 150. Enter. And what it's done is that if I just type in, bring that up. Let's show that. Okay, that's not working. But basically, if I run that line there, all right, you can actually see that it's now 150. It has moved 150 inwards, closer to the wall than where it was. Okay, so we need to do that again by pressing stretch or selecting stretch icon or typing in stretch. Create your selection box, which is your green box. It doesn't work on using the blue window selection. If I do that, okay, that's your blue window selection. So working from top left to bottom right, nothing happens. It only works when you are selecting it as a cross selection. So there's a cross selection. It's a green selection box, and then it highlights it in saying that it's active. And now it's asking us for how many objects. One has been found, and you press enter because you agree with that. And then it's asking for a base point. So I'm going to go over here and I'm going to move. See, if I had to move just by accident move it up there and click, it will stay like that. So be very careful not to click or move anything. You are moving, but not to click on the mouse or press enter. All you have to do is go upwards 90 degrees. So pull it upwards. You can go quite far up even if you feel like that. Okay, there. And what it's asking for is, it's saying to me, what is that displacement distance from that base point? And we said 450 minus 300 is 150. So type in 150, enter. And now it has moved that object there, or that part of the roof line inwards to sit at a difference of 150. Okay. These lines here move in 50 and 50. Now it gets a bit tricky if you've drawn in the columns. So what I do is I actually find out what layer they are in, and they are in text. So I am going to just select those. I'm actually going to just turn, I don't think they're supposed to be text, but we're just going to keep them in text, and I'm going to switch off that layer so I don't see them, so I don't change their properties. So I'm just going to turn the light bulb off and they disappear. Now I can work within this area with my selection box, because My selection box then will pick up those columns and move them too, and I don't want that. So we do stretch again, we select up here, all the way down there. So you can actually see I'm just highlighting the line or the object I'm wanting to move. Because it's part of a polyline, the whole polyline turns blue. It actually gives you what it says here. It says specify opposite corner or one found, and it is true. I have selected one object. So we press enter, and we know that 450 minus 50 is 400. So we need to move that line inwards by 400. So you can also do 400 and use the smaller than sign to give it an angle to get, if you find that the cursive is moving too much, instead of just dragging it to the left hand side, you can also give it an angle and it will set it at that angle. So shift smaller than sign locks that in at that distance, and it's now prompting you that you're moving in a 180 degree direction. So I can just say enter, or I can type in physically 180 and press enter, and it does the same thing. So stretch again, let's do the other side, stretch, do the selection box. So there I made a mistake, and you can actually see I've done the blue one, does absolutely nothing. I've got to do the green selection box, which always starts from the top right hand corner to the bottom left hand corner. Select that one object, so that one object is from the top there to the bottom there. One object is found, which is one found. I press enter because I agree with that, and now it's asking me for a base point. The base point is what it's offsetting from as a displacement. So there's my base point I've allocated as an endpoint, and I'm going to bring that in. Now I might be all the way down here, okay, and if I type in it, it will set it there. So let's try that again by making sure that we get the right distance at the right angle. So that distance is 450 minus 50, because it is 50 mils as a fascia board away from your outer wall. So 450 minus 50 is, sorry, 450 minus 50 is 400, so we need to move it by 400, and we use the smaller than sign by shift smaller than sign, which is located on your keyboard next to M, and we are going to give it 90 degrees. Alright, now somehow that has been overridden, and I don't know why, so let's just go back. Alright, so let's do that again by stretch and do that and enter and there, alright, and pull it that way and type in 400 and greater than sign, which is then 0, not 90, it's 0. I did something wrong there earlier, so did you see that I gave it at the wrong angle, but I've actually done it here too. So you need to go back, lock in that angle, greater than and 0. Let's see if that works, and there we go, it does work, which is great. So now I know from here to here is 50 mils. Okay, so if I do that, I'm in annotative, so let's just go here quickly just to measure. Dimension, escape, D, style, oh, sorry about that. Let me see quickly. Annotative, dimensions, drop down arrow, choose that one, make it current, and close. And if I choose now in home and I'm wanting to give dimension that, it's 50. Okay, so that's how you know. All right, so now that you've got your walls there and there, you can also change this line here. So you need to stretch it again because that's the fascia. It actually sits just offset from this wall line by 50. So you'll see in your notes that you need to offset that line, and it also is short of 50 there. So we're going to stretch it by selecting it, enter, base point, bring it in by 400, enter, and you can see it's still linked to the polyline. So what we need to do is explode it, and I'll get back to that now because I first want to do this line here. So stretch it again, select that object, enter, base point, move it in. Do you see that it's stretchy? Move it in by 400. And there we go. So it starts looking like your drawing that is provided in your procedure document. What we got to do now is we got to explode this polyline, which is the roof line. So let's explode that, select it and enter. Now it's seen as a separate object. Click on it so that you get your grip points, and select the top one there, and you can actually move it up by giving it a distance where it is short of 50. So that there was 450 minus 50 is 400. Is that right? Yep. And that's what you want. You want that difference there. So if I know that distance, that's 50. It's just short of 50. It doesn't actually attach to the wall. That fascia board sits in there. Okay? And there's a detail of that to get those measurements there. Again here, let's do that again. It's a separate object. That line there, that's what I'm working with. And we are going to select it, and we can either just pull it up, all right, and when we pull it up we can give it a distance there, there, and we said it was 450 minus 50 away from the wall, which is 400, and there. So we've just stretched that line now. We stretched that object to create the fascia, which is sitting snugly at 50 from the wall edge to the fascia board is 50. Okay? And again, for up here, you know that that is 450. It gives you a measurement there of, I think, let me just find it quick. It gives you a measurement there of 1,650 from the wall. So 1,650 less 450 is where your new fascia board is going to be. So you can offset that by let's just offset that by 1,650 less 450, and that gives you 1,200. So 1,200, type in, enter, select the object, there we go, and then you need to offset that again to get the top of the fascia for your hip to fall into place. So enter and enter a distance of 400. Enter, select the objects, pull it up, and now you can trim it all up. Enter, and what do we want it to do here? We want it to, it's not going to erase, so we can actually just, oh yes, we want it to trim. Enter that line and that line, and we can just then erase this line and this line. Enter. Alright, because that's where our roof line will attach to our fascia in there. Okay, so let's start now with the hip and the valley lines. That's all drawn by starting from this bottom left hand corner. Select line and make sure that your polar tracking is on at 45. Okay, and because this is all to do with 45-degree angles, there's no distance with the roof lines. Okay, so we are going to select line, and we're going to connect to where our eave overhang is in the corner here, and we're going to lock that line with our vector line at 45 degrees, and we're just going to keep pulling it out to somewhere up here. Enter. We're going to copy that line, enter, choose the end point and move that to link in with the top of your fascia board, and they should be running parallel with one another. Then create your gable here by coming up and going there, and now trimming that all up. Oh, sorry, not trim. Let's fillet. Enter. Alright, and then that line should be at 45 degrees, or it should be at actually 135, and you can just trim that now. Enter. Alright, or you could use fillet, because now I've got this line somewhere there that's lost. Okay, and then from there you can just draw a line upwards in a 90-degree somewhere up here, and from there then you will do another line from there, this fascia board, at 135 degrees or negative 45. So there, and where those two lines meet, that's where you are going to trim, or we're going to fillet that. Okay, so what I find is quite useful is using mirror on this line here, because this has a midpoint. Make sure that your midpoints are on. So endpoint, midpoint, center, quadrant, intersection, and perpendicular. Alright, click on your screen just to close that command. And what we're going to do is we are going to select mirror, select the object, press enter. Alright, find your midpoint, so that's the point you're going to rotate around, and pull it in at an angle at 0 or at 180, but it's actually this way. It's at 0, and it locks it into that corner there. Erase source object, say no, because that's the source object that you did there. Okay. You can do the same with that line there. So you can actually do mirror again, select the object, press enter, find your midpoint, and pull it down in a 270 angle, and I said erase. Okay, let's do that again. So mirror, select, enter, find the midpoint, and lock it in by pulling it downwards, your cursor. Erase source object, say no, and there it is. And I'll leave you to do the rest. So it's all to do with 45-degree angles. There are no lengths provided for the roof plan. So that is preparing you for your roof plan, and that all should be all good.